Hi, this is BB. I'm doing the intro this week because my daughter-in-law, our son's widow, is going to be sharing her thoughts, hurts, hindsights, emotions, feelings, and anything else that she wants to share this week. But before she gets started, I would like to once again say if have suicidal thoughts or suicidal ideations, to please call 988. Don't suffer. Don't suffer in silence. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Please call 988 and get the help that you need. And if you are not suffering that way, but you know someone who is, please share the number 988 with them.
Hi, this is SB. I'm the estranged wife of BB's son. I feel like I should start by saying that he and I were together for 15 years. So there's a lot of history. And while the last year and a half, 2 years, I can't even keep track, he and I were separated. He was living in another state. I came here with the kids to be closer to family. um, I was also very close with his family, with BB. So I've kept connections with them. We're still like family. My kids, our kids still go over to his parents and on a regular basis. Um, so it's while we were separated, we were all still connected. He and I weren't on the best of terms. Um, but we did our best to co-parent. When it came down to it, I was able to call him when there was a situation with one of our kids, and get his help. He was living in another state, so that really hindered him seeing the kids. But just before his passing, just before he took his own life, he did move here, and I was thrilled about it. I was so excited that the girls were going to get to see him on a regular basis and spend time with him. In fact, before it happened, um, it was Christmas break for the kids. They were out, and they had spent half of their break with him, and I had literally just got them back on a Wednesday. And it was that Friday when he had left town without his parents knowing, and you've heard how that played out. And that on Monday morning is when he did what he did. And I got the news when I was working. I work from home, so I was sitting at my desk in my room, and BB called me, and she told me, and I was shocked. I couldn't believe it, and I asked her to I needed a moment. I told her I need a moment to let this sink in, and then I would call her back. I immediately burst into tears. Um, because for me, it wasn't just that he was gone. It was also that my kid's father was gone. And as sad as I was about it, I knew they were going to be devastated. And now I had to figure out how to handle that. And I was just in shock. I guess looking back, it shouldn't have been such a surprise. Um, there's just so much to unpack in that. But I was shocked. And at the time, one of our daughters was homeschooled, the other one was at the high school. And then I had our two adult children, sons. And I knew I needed to tell them all together. So I told my daughter, who was home, that I was going to pick up her sister from school, and she had already, just from the buzzing around the house at the time, and she knew something was up and kept asking what was going on, and I couldn't tell her, and I told her I'd tell her when I got Madison. So she wanted to drive with me, and I remember the whole way there, she kept just saying things that I was like, you're gonna eat your words, please be quiet. Like, she originally thought that my niece who was here, who was in my room, might have been saying something about something that her or her sister had done, and that was they were in trouble or something. And I remember her making the comment of, well, if you don't defend us, Dad will. Or if you don't say something to her, Dad will. And then the other was, because I wouldn't say anything and they knew something was up. When I got her sister out of school, they were in the car and they were like, well, who died? And just making comments like that. And I also remember the whole way to the school, there was this song on, and it was Save Me by Jelly Roll. And if you've never heard the lyrics, I'm going to read some of them because it was just awful. But it says, somebody save me, me from myself. I've spent so long living in hell. They say my lifestyle is bad for my health. It's the only thing that seems to help. All of this drinking and smoking is hopeless, but feel like it's something I need. Something inside of me's broken. I hold on to anything that sets me free. I'm a lost cause. Baby, don't waste your time on me. I'm so damaged beyond repair. Life has shattered my hopes and my dreams. And continues on with that type of those types of lyrics that are just awful. And so I get to the school, my daughter comes out, we get back to the house, but I had called the boys and they were at my house when I got back. But they were making sandwiches and stuff in the kitchen, and I was like, okay, so now everybody's here, everybody knows something's up. And in that moment, I got to the point where I was gonna lose it, but more so it was, how do you even say this? Like, how do you say these words? Like, what do I say, and how can I even lessen this blow? And really, what it came down to was just say it. That's all I could do, is just say it. So I told them that Adam is dead or something. I don't even remember what I said, but I do remember after I said what I said, just something from my past, something I heard in the past, that when you're giving some type of news like this, you have to make it very clear that they are dead. So I remember trying to reword it in different ways so that it would sink in, and so they knew that he wasn't just gone. What do you mean gone? He was dead. And kind of filled them in on what took place, and it was just the absolute worst moment of my life. And after the kids hugged each other and cried, and I walked around from each one of them, hugging them and crying with them, we all kind of just, I know my daughter went to her room, and one of my sons, like some of them cried. One of my sons didn't cry and didn't seem fazed. He just went right back to making his sandwich and eating, and that concerned me. And so from that moment on, it was trying to make sure each one of them were dealing with it, even if it was different, and that they were okay, and that they knew I was there for them, and they didn't have to be alone in it. But I took my youngest daughter and we went over to BB's house to be with all of them. My oldest daughter did not want to go. She wanted to be alone. And then the boys went on about their days. They also did not want to go over to BB's. I feel like they were still processing in their own ways. But I want to get back to the kids later. I'll talk more about that and what's taken place with them since and how it's impacted them and what I've seen in the changes and things like that. But what I do want to talk about a little bit is some of the effects after and some of my hindsight. Just like his brother, I have also had to take a look at my health because I'm their only parent. I'm the only parent they have left. And that is just a crazy thought because I'm pretty sure one of them, and I don't remember which one, came to me and said, well, what happens to us if something happens to you? And this was just right after all of this, like within a week, within that first week. And that just shook me too. Like, that I knew then that that's something that they were thinking about and they were worried about. So I did sit them down and I said, look, if God forbid something were to happen to me, we need to have a plan. We need to know who's going to take the girls who are still underage. And we kind of worked it out where my youngest son, who is currently 22, I'm sorry, 20, would take them. I try to give them some peace of mind and knowing that, I had a life insurance policy and that I would have a will drawn up and all of these, these things that you always hear that you should do, but in this moment became very real. And it wasn't just their fear, it was my fear as well. I didn't think about it till that moment, but what if something were to happen to me now? What would happen to them? Would they be okay? Of course they wouldn't. And they're not now. They lost their dad. But I felt bad because I knew this was a fear for them now. And it's something that has come up over and over again since this happened, which was, 6 months ago now? 7 months ago? Where they were like, oh, be careful, you're the only parent I have left. So those words have been spoken more than once. So that happened. I also have a lot of mixed thoughts and feelings about him and what happened. Obviously, we were together a very long time, and obviously things went bad because we weren't together anymore. But I found myself talking to him every day, and it would go from, I can't believe you did this, to, I can't believe you did this. Like in shock to being angry. And I still have it. It's not as intense, but I do still think about him daily and about, where is he? And this is also another conversation I had with our son, which I'll touch base on, but more so it's just like, a song will come on or something will trigger a memory and it'll make me feel close to him in the moment, but there's just a lot of mixed feelings. I have a lot of anger that he left and that he did this to the kids and that a lot of different things, like, how could they not be enough to stop you from doing what you did? I just can't fathom the moment and what was going on in his head in that moment. And I come back to that over and over again. And I know he was sick, and I know, or that's what they say when somebody takes their own life. They were sick. They weren't thinking straight. And I understand that, but it's also not enough. And that's just where the contradictions come in. It's like I can understand that he was in pain, and I understand where he was at and how much despair he felt, and how I get it, but at the same time I don't get it. And that sounds crazy, but it's hard to explain. Um but then throughout the day, it's like, other thoughts come into my mind, like, this is somebody I spent 15 years with. And we moved a lot. And for most of it, it was me and him. It was just the two of us, especially when the kids were little. I mean, his parents were around and other people were around occasionally, but they weren't with us all the time. So he's gone. And all the memories that we shared of the kids growing up and the good times and stuff, those are gone. It's, like a lot of parents will say, oh, you remember when, she fell asleep sitting up in her crib, or when she used to get up out of bed in the middle of the night while we were watching TV and wiggle her fingers on the door, under the door, yelling to us and stuff. Like, there's a lot of moments that only he would know about, like, and that's gone. And um I look back over the years, and this is where the hindsights come in, is I can look back over the years now, and I remember when we were younger and he would say, I'm not gonna make it to 25. I'm not gonna live past 25, or I'm not gonna live past 30. I never thought I'd make it to 30, and things like that, where he used to say stuff like this all the time. And I would just be like, oh my gosh, whatever, and and shrug it off. And now looking back, it's like he always said that he felt like he wasn't going to live a long time. And then there was other things, like, throughout the years, where I'd see moments like that, now looking back at them differently with a different set of eyes that stand out. But I also, just before he passed, and it struck me as odd when it happened, but after he passed, it was one of the moments that came just like out of, just like, I narrowed in on. But we had mostly communicated through text at this point. And I remember he texted me out of the blue, and he started with, I know you hate me, but, and then said what he had said. And it struck me as odd, and I almost said, I don't hate you, and then answered him, or responded, but I didn't. And so that's kind of stuck with me, like it was his little way of reaching out in a very small way to try to, it was like a lifeline, maybe, where maybe had I responded differently, I could have opened up the lines of communication a little better. Maybe he would have confided in me. Maybe it would have given him a little bit of peace of mind to know that I didn't hate him. I mean, we were so close to being divorced, but I didn't hate him. And I didn't say that. And also I said that I picked the girls up on Wednesday, and Friday is when he left and went to back out of state where he was living before and did it. I had, in that moment, that Wednesday before I picked the girls up, I was going to, and I didn't, telling me, why don't you just keep the girls until Sunday? And now I like, what if I had said that? Would he still be here? The what ifs are terrible because you can't change anything. And all you can do is wonder, what if this, would it be different? And you will never know. And of course, one of my biggest what ifs is, what if I didn't leave him? What if we didn't separate when we did? He certainly didn't want to, but I stood my ground. And what if I hadn't? What if I had given in? What if I had stayed? Would he be here today? And I think I know the answer. That had I stayed, yes, he would be here today. But I am so sad that he's gone. And I'm even more sad that because my kids, our kids, they're missing out. They're missing out on their dad on a daily basis. He's not there for them. He's not. The girls used to get texts every day, almost every day. It would be at least a text or a phone call every day. And that stopped. They can't talk to him. They can't see him anymore. And I know that if I think about him every day, I know they do. And it's not just the day-to-day that he's absent from their life, and it's going to be the milestones. And I can look down the road to them having serious relationships that, where they get married or have their kids. That, for some reason, gets me more than the marriage one, because I know how excited he would have been to have grandkids. I mean, I can literally in my mind see him as a grandpa playing with his grandkids. I can see it. And I think that what hurts the most about looking down the road at those moments right now is because I know that when we are there, when we will be in that moment, when we're at the hospital and they're having their kids, or we're at the wedding, I know they're going to be thinking about him. He's going to be missed greatly. And I have so much more to say and so much more to unpack, but I will do that another day. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, SB, for sharing from your heart and being so raw and open and emotional and honest in your heartbreak and everything that you've been dealing with as the mother of y'all's children and having to do everything on your own now. And once again, before LJ closes, I just want to say if you are having suicidal thoughts or suicidal ideations, to please call 988 and to share that phone number with someone that you may know who's having those thoughts or those ideations.
I'm not sure what words to even say at the moment. I'm so moved by our guest hindsight worries. I think I feel led to say that it is not your fault. It is no one's fault. You could not have prevented or changed the outcome. For anyone listening, I hope you understand our Hindsight Hurts podcast is to release your feelings or guilt. But no, even though the hindsight memories of conversations may haunt you, that doesn't mean you should take blame. We appreciate your stories and memories and hopes to help everyone going through something like this is healed in some way. Talking, expressing, can only do good in my own opinion. Please, everyone who is willing to share their stories and experiences, we encourage you to do so. Email us at hindsighthurts@mail.com. We're on Instagram, and Spotify, and of course on YouTube. We cherish your stories, hurt, and hindsight moments. Stay tuned in for next Tuesday's episode. Thank you all to our listeners, and especially to our special guests. You are so special to us. Thank you.